Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 with Black Ice, and of course we're playing French Folies, the Folly of France. So, and we've got an Alpine fortification line here. We stand up against Italy. We've got the Maginot, and we are extending the Maginot, racing slowly to do so. We are shooting down some of our bombers while we are attempting to hold the airspace. What it kind of looks like we are, though. Well, the animations don't make it seem so. Okay, so let's see. Here maybe. Okay, those are mostly British airplanes. Put up some fighters, make it somewhat costly for them to attack here. Put some of these old guys. Oh no, you stay over there. You. Okay, the cabinet resigns. The Chamber of Deputies elected by Renaud, Premier Minister, but only a single vote with most of his own party abstaining. The new government is especially unstable. Many on the right demand that Renaud attack not Germany but the Soviet Union. The chamber also forced Daladier, whom Renaud held personally responsible for France's weaknesses, to be Renaud's Minister of National Defense and War. So, yeah, that's really, several things are really chaotic there. Like I was saying in the previous episode, I don't know this well in any detail like I know other things, but I do know it was quite chaotic, and this is quite important here. Now, the Winter War has not yet happened, so there's not that sort of a direct thing, but the idea that you should be attacking the Soviet Union, not Germany, is really ridiculous. I mean, they were both invading Poland. It shows just how divided France is. And okay, time for a hopefully very short rant. Recently, as of making this recording, Hawaii, I'm sure most all of you heard, had a 38-minute no false alarm missiles incoming to Hawaii, or a missile attack. Now, presumably missiles mean atomic weapons, though they're not necessarily. And of course it was a false alarm. And a couple of celebrities, and I know a lot of people, blaming Trump for this, blaming Trump, it's Trump, it's Trump, it's Trump, Trump, Trump! You know, Trump, one, the federal government had no responsibility, none whatsoever. Now, you maybe think they should. They're the ones that are supposed, they have the responsibility to tell the state government that there's an incoming missile attack, and they did not do that, so the federal system worked. It's entirely the state system that went wrong. and supposedly they lost the Twitter code to rescind it and all kinds of stuff. But the idea is that, say, under Obama, if someone posted it, no one would believe it. No one would be traumatized by it, because no one would think, who's going to attack a missile attack on Hawaii? This is just silly. It must be some false alarm. Whatever. Let's go back to the beach and hang out. But because Trump is confronting Kim Jong-un of North Korea, it's Trump's fault, and that's what they're meaning. If Trump wasn't being the warmonger, we wouldn't feel threatened. What the? We are in a state of conflict because only the Congress could declare war, and we've not declared war since sometime in 1941. We've ended our last war sometime in 1945. Because I say that because first we declare a war against Japan, you know, the famous Roosevelt speech, and then Hitler declares war against us. And I presume, I don't know right offhand, that we, of course, then, because they've declared war on us, we then declare war on, you know, Germany, Italy, and other nations very well. You know, so I don't know exactly our last official declaration of war against all nations, but we signed our treaty ending our last war in 1945 with Japan and any of these other puppets. So we have not been at a state of war since then. But we are currently in a state of conflict under a UN resolution with North Korea, and all we have is a ceasefire line. And so we can unilaterally, although of course just our couple of American divisions wouldn't be very effective, but we can unilaterally, legitimately attack North Korea, and North Korea can unilaterally, legitimately attack us at any single moment they so wish to, because we are in a state of conflict with only a ceasefire, meaning temporarily we're not shooting at each other, but the war still remains. I'm using the term because, at least for North Korea and South Korea, they're still at war. They are still at war. Okay. And they shoot at each other once in a while. South Korea attacks some ships, North Korea attacks some ships or something. South Korea artillery shoots at some island or something. They've been shooting each other periodically. Okay? That goes back and forth. That's happened. They attacked one of our ships. I forget the Pueblo. I forget exactly what that date was. Attacked a U.S. ship, took it over. They still have it moored in a harbor. See, I sort of know some of this history, don't know it all in detail. But, so we're still in a state of conflict with North Korea, which Trump has no responsibility for. Okay? None. Now, who has responsibility for the possible missile attack? A nuclear missile attack on Hawaii? That would be... Okay, I'll go back to it. Bush, Clinton, or Bush the elder, Clinton, Bush the younger, and Obama. This has nothing to do with partisan politics of right or left, or, oh, you gamer, you just hate Obama because you just hate Obama, so anything Obama does is bad, and if Reagan would have done it, it would have been okay. No, this is those four presidents' fault. The reason I don't put in Reagan is because when Reagan was president, there was, a Cold War going on, and North Korea was an ally of the Soviet Union and, of course, the People's Republic of China. Well, particularly under Clinton, though elements of it started under the Bush the elder in the latter days, but it didn't just. But Clinton sort of signed that treaty, and you can look at some of the clips probably on YouTube, unless they bury them, of how the Clinton administration comes to an agreement that's going to halt the nuclear program of North Korea. Well, now they've got missiles. They got nuclear missiles or nuclear bombs, and they got missiles, and they can put them together. And they've a hydrogen bomb, which is more than what we dropped on Hiroshima. What the U.S. dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were just nuclear bombs. A hydrogen bomb is exponentially bigger. So they've detonated their first hydrogen bomb. This is all the faults that they've continued all this. If any fault is to be in the U.S. Administrations, because obviously they did not order North Korea to do it. It was the North Koreans who did it. But the responsibility to confronting it are these previous presidents who didn't do it, who didn't successfully stop the program before they had functional nukes that they could deliver somewhere. Okay. It has nothing to do with Trump. Trump has this basket full of snakes. What do you do about it? Do we immediately start attacking North Korea? Well, you know, from a U.S. perspective, an American perspective, I would say, hell yes. I mean, let's get all of our airplanes, you know, because our maintenance is really bad and we don't have enough spare parts to fly our airplanes. Again, I think I mentioned this. There was a flyover of South Korea of a I think it was a B-1 bomber and some new what was it, F-35 fighters, and they landed in South Korea. And one of the F-35s in South Korea had some mechanical problems, had to be towed off the runway to be worked on. Well, supposedly, from what I understand, it was supposed to be two B-1 bombers. One of them they figured that either couldn't get taken off, or they checked it over and said it wasn't airworthy to fly over from wherever U.S. bases or whatever to fly over to South Korea. So get our damn Air Force together and bomb the hell out of any target that we think is a nuclear target. From a U.S. perspective, that is what I right now think we should do. Just start bombing anything that we think is a nuclear bomb, nuclear missile, a missile site, a nuclear weapons production site. Anything we think is any one of those things, just start immediately bombing them. Now, that may not be the best solution, say, from a South Korean perspective, our ally there, because that may trigger a massive response by North Korea to attack Seoul and the civilians and all these other things. And they may be able to launch, I don't know, right now I think it's mostly airplanes that could drop nuclear bombs, because they have a bunch of nuclear bombs already. That whether the planes could successfully get to their target or not, I don't know. But to target whether Korea or Japan, it could be a really sort of big mess. I am absolutely sure that China is not going to start attacking the U.S. if we start just bombing North Korea's nuclear weapons sites. Oh, they might be very, very pissed about it and decide to do, you know, an embargo against us, do all kinds of nasty things, but I don't really think they would be going to war with us over it. So from a, you know, South Korean / Japanese / general Asian working things out perspective, I don't know that going to war right now with North Korea is the best thing to do. What I do believe is the best thing to do, considering all of that, is to make sure that the Chinese understand that if something like this, real concrete, not just, oh, well, we're putting more pressure sanctions on them, but real concrete action to dismantle this program, which may mean Chinese units moving into North Korea to secure the sites and start dismantling the sites. If something like that isn't happening, that in a time frame, you know, 6 months or something, we will start bombing. I just sort of tell China, you know, very privately. Now they can come out to the news media and say all this stuff if they want to, but be ready. You know, have all the planes, have everything sitting ready to go. Missiles to strike if we need to strike, you know, which could be nuke missiles or could just be conventional Tomahawk missiles from submarines or whatever, or air-launched Tomahawks or something like that. You know, could be everything ready to go and to strike. And tell the Chinese, if we don't really start seeing this, you know, securing of the sites and all this stuff happening within, say, 6 months or 1 year or whatever. You have this, because, to give them some time to plan, to get units in preparation, to get stuff, don't make it a mad scramble. Say, you can move in all the troops you want into North Korea. You can secure it. You can basically, in essence, invade North Korea if you want, but you better secure these missiles, the bombs, these production sites, every single thing. And then you can, once you secure it and, take the bombs out of the country and destroy the production facilities, you can leave again if you want. You just get rid of all missile and nuke programs, including peaceful nuclear power factories. Just get rid of all of that, and then you can leave if you want, if that's what you want. And we'll promise we won't attack North Korea unless they attack South Korea. And so you can still have your buffer state, but it has to be a denuclearized buffer state. Say either that, you either prepare that, or we're going to attack at some point after this thing. If we haven't seen that you're there, so you've got time to go in and get this stuff done right. But if you don't do that, and also tell them very privately, we'll allow you to spin it both domestically and internationally that China has decided that this is just too destabilizing to the region. So China is moving in to do this. This is China's plan. This is China's going to do this. China's going to save the world. China gets to look like the big savior to the Asian countries, and that is denuclearizing a threat. And China gets to look good out of it. And they've got guarantees from the U.S. and South Korea not to interfere with China actions denuclearizing North Korea. So if they were to do something like that, I'd be happy. I'm not happy for the North Koreans who are going to continuing to live under whatever Kim ruler that's going to starve them to death. Not happy about that, but I'm happy about a situation of solving a problem. And so this is what, so this is the fault. So we see here, again, and this is one of the reasons I want to play and build with France, is because it's allegorical to what's in the U.S. We have Germany first demanding the Sudetenland. Oh, it's just the Sudetenland because they're Germans. Okay. France gives on that. Britain gives on it too. Let's not just call it France, but Britain, France. Okay. And then Germany comes in and occupies the rest of Czechoslovakia. Over an excuse over Slovakia, yeah. And the Czechs don't fight because the Czechs realize by this point it's just going to cause death and it's going to have the same end result. I probably, if I were involved with the Czechs, had set up a better escape route for technology. Production technology of some of their tank models and aircraft models, because they had a really great fighter. That they were developing in late 38, early 39. That when the Germans got to take a look at it and test it and go, this is not enough, enough better than the ME 109 to put it into production and have two sets of production lines producing. Because when this started out, the Focke-Wulf wasn't really a big thing yet, because the Focke-Wulf was really put into production as an alternative, because the real bottleneck for Germany for fighters was engine production, not fighter airframe production. And the Focke-Wulf was designed with a rotary engine, which my understanding takes a different set of machine tools and setups to make rotary engines versus inline engines that was the ME 109. So the Focke-Wulf 190, and we can talk about which one between those two is better, and they both have their things, and as somebody who really knows the details of fighters better could argue that out better than I can. But so we're going to put this alternative fighter to deal with engine production better. So they had the two main fighter types for Germany, the 109 and the 190. But earlier in 39, that's more happening in late 39, early 40 with the 190. I don't have the exact dates on those earlier ones, but this is in 39, that, you know, when the German pilots got in and tested this Czech fighters that they got, and it was not yet in production. It was, you know, in prototype stages that were flying and well, but they would have to basically build the factories to an extent, or convert the current. Maybe I should rephrase that. Convert the current Czech factories. Excuse me, a little bit of hiccups here. The Czech factories for the earlier fighter types that the Czechs had, which were okay fighters, but not this new really good thing that the Czechs had developed, and I don't remember the model numbers. Happy if somebody wants to post a Wikipedia page links down below if they're interested enough to look this up. But this better fighter, that's just a little bit better, at least in some aspects, than the 109, to sort of get it up into production, and then logistically supply the spare parts and whatever else for it, was just going to be too much work to, you know, put it into action. Well, most of my understanding is most of the Czech weapons developers stayed in Bohemia and Moravia and worked for the Germans. They probably made the best 105mm artillery howitzer of the war. Now, it was finished development in 1945, so it never went into production, but it was a better than anything, to my knowledge, than the Allies or the Germans had. That was a really good 105mm howitzer. Basically, it's sort of like somewhat like the later D-30 Soviet 130mm howitzers, in that it would quickly, you could deploy it from, you know, its wheels. It was a towed one, but it deployed onto to sort of a four-way cross, sort of like the Black 88s or the D-30, which has a sort of triangle thing. And so it deploys out on this, and the two road wheels automatically, sort of as part of the deployment, lift up off the ground, so you don't have the recoil bouncing the tires, you know, when you shoot it. And it was very efficiently designed for good and ease of manufacture, sort of, you know, good German design, if you will, blended with simplicity, which Germans aren't always known for, and simplicity of design. So this was a really good artillery piece that the Czechs developed under German oversight during World War II. So they were actively helping Germany develop better weapons. And we can talk about some of the other stuff at some time, and I know I have in some of the other series. So that they didn't move more of these people out, you know, including their families, and have that sort of all ready to go. Because at this point, as we're seeing, as we're getting some aid, Romania is more friendly to the Western Allies than it is to Czechoslovakia, or than it is to Germany at this point. And so I would have had a program set up to try to move Czech young men out through Romania, you know, just either before, or have sort of some of the stuff, you know, sort of an underground railroad pre-set up to get these guys, if Germany were to move against us, even if that means the Western Allies come to war, because we're just not going to be able to hold. Without being able to hold the forts and the mountains, we're just not going to be able to hold. So our plan is to escape with as much men and talent and whatnot that we can get out. No point in like getting out rifles or light machine guns or anything, just because you're not going to get enough out. But try to get all that out. Try to get out maybe some of the machinery that produces some of the stuff. But definitely some of both the workers as well as the designers, to get them out of the country, to get them into the West, to be ready to put to work, because they got Liège in Belgium is the main armaments production for Belgium. The FN Herzog's there, the sort of European Browning company. There's also sort of an American version of the stuff too. Well, Dieudonné Salve was the main sort of small arms designer for the company. He gets out of Belgium. They evacuate. They get him out of Belgium. And his big thing is they get him out to Canada, and he reinvents the Browning high power. And I say reinvents is because he He worked on the final version of the Browning High Power. Basically, he's responsible just for the magazine of it, the sort of double columns into a single feed thing, and the sort of final sort of touches on the outside of the gun. But it's basically the last real design by John Browning. Well, he gets out, but without any of the plans. They just sort of get him out. And so he comes over, get him out to Canada eventually. They even get him to Inglis in Canada. And so he knows what it's supposed to be, but he has none of the plans, none of the machine tool. So he basically redraws it up. So Inglis high powers, if you take a piece out of an Inglis high power, you can't put it into a Browning high power. They're just that little bit different. At least most of the pieces are just that little bit different. You could get in and refile and things and make it sort of work. Trust me, I have some little experience with some of this stuff. Not of actually doing that mechanics, but looking at some of the stuff, wanting to get a barrel. I still got to put in a new barrel in one of my Inglis high powers. And I need to start with a Browning barrel, but needs to be machined differently. And it can be done. I've looked at it. Just got to buy one and have somebody do the proper machining to put in a nice barrel into my old Inglis high power. Just expense and finding somebody to do it, so I haven't done it in a long time. But it's just, you can't put them together without doing a lot of work. Taking it to machine shops and putting stuff together, so that they're incompatible with each other, but they're the same basic design. So he puts it together for the English. So the English do end up having a large numbers of semi-automatic pistols made out of Canada, as well as they sent lots and lots of them over to China, often with a shoulder stock for sort of like machine-type pistols, but semi-auto ones for China is used. So they move him, they get him out, and he designs that, and works on other things, and then he comes back to Belgium and designs the FAL rifle that you may be familiar with post-war in Belgium, very, very soon after post-war, and gets it out, and actually that becomes the first main weapon for West Germany. They later go to the G3. It's the G1. The Gewehr 1 is the Browning or FN FAL. So they get this genius of weapons design out. I don't think they get most of the Liège workers, because I know Liège is making Browning high powers, which I own one of them, for the Nazis. Nazi marked, Nazi produced, so that all sides used Browning high powers, not just representing, the Belgians used it. The Belgians used it as one small nation. The English high power made in very, very large numbers for British and Commonwealth units in China, and Germany took over production, particularly the German Fallschirmjägers, the paratroopers, loved the gun because it was very reliable, and it had a 13-round magazine, which was more than the 7-round magazine of the P-38. And it was 9mm, so both sides used Browning high powers in fairly large numbers, and were continued in production throughout the war. So, sort of an all sides kind of a weapon. So, they have that, and they, have some other Czech stuff that they could have got out, and those people, whether the guys that built the, designed the new artillery piece for Germany, they also did some other intermediate artillery development, or whether they, the guys that worked on improving the 38Ts and, developing them into Hetzers eventually, whether those guys would have worked on similar sorts of projects in the West, or been assigned to something else equally useful, helping design better, recoil mounts for anti-aircraft guns or something in the West. I don't know. But they did not have a plan to do that, which I think is a failure. But I understand why they didn't fight. So, yeah. The idea that France is so divided once you have Germany, who takes first, and I would say arguably, if you believe in the principle of majority rules and democratic process. Now, maybe you can sort of tell I don't believe in that as the primary principle. Again, I believe in maximum amounts of freedom as possible. If you watch my channel, you know that. I keep saying this because I know many of you are core viewers but I sort of just got to keep saying this because periodically I get new people into the channel, and someday I hope to have lots of new people in, and if they just encounter one of these videos, they may thinking I'm saying I want some sort of dictatorship. No, I want maximum amount of freedom, and I want a good representative constitutional governments. Those are the kind of governments that I like. Not necessarily democratic majority rules government, because the majority of Czechoslovakia did not agree with Czechoslovakia. They wanted to be Slovaks, they wanted to be Ukrainians, a few of them wanted to be Poles, a bunch of them wanted to be Germans. But if you're going to have Czechoslovakia, it's going to be a minority government of Czechs. Now, of course, in modern day, they've gotten rid of Czechoslovakia. You have Czechia and Slovakia. Okay. But so, and they've kicked out all the Germans. But if you're going to have the national territory, that was their national territory. Germany took that, arguably, with some justification. No justification for taking the rest of Czechoslovakia. None whatsoever. So the French politicians, left, right, and center, see this. And then they see, well, going on at the same time, they've already started to agitate for the Danzig corridor. Danzig was already a free city, already basically controlled by Germans. Not by Germany, but by Germans. They wanted this sort of Danzig corridor, basically all of this state, at least. And that's what they were agitating for. And, of course, they were agitating for Memmelback and other things, too. So they see all of this, and they should also realize, oh, wait a minute. This region was part of Germany before the First World War. They're going to want this back. And so that they're still divided on this. That is sort of what I think is sort of the follies. That, you know, you could be, hey, you hate communists. And you don't hate Nazis. You know, you don't hate Nazis or fascists. Or something like that. Okay. But still, you have national politics of Germany's being aggressive, and they're going to want some of your territory, and they're not going to, and if you don't fight them with some allies, you're going to be standing alone against them. And that's the kind of thing that I don't get. Now, I do sort of get the communists, because they want to destroy France. And it's like the communists in America want to destroy America. Now you're going to go, oh, but they love America. No, they don't believe in national borders. Okay? We talk about another time about the illegal aliens in the United States. But the Communist Internationale, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, it's an internationalist philosophy. They don't necessarily want to like blow up the Eiffel Tower and level the city of Paris and want to kill all Parisians. Kind of hate France. They hate the idea that there's a national country of France. They, you know, whether you call it a European Union or a Soviet Union, get the parallels, or some other sort of thing. They actively want to destroy France and are actively, especially during this time period in which there is the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact going on, they actively want to be supporting National Socialism because National Socialism is allied to their mother ideology of communism. Now, whether they think eventually they're going to have another war or not, I don't know what the average French communist working in a factory thought or the French communist intellectual thought, but he was, because of the purges, basically, anyone left of any activities within the communist parties in France were pro-Soviet communists, because you see what happens in Spain and other places. Sometimes the purges is killing, other times the purges is just ostracization and isolation of anyone who's like a Trotskyite or anything else, and they're sort of the people in all the levers of powers within the Communist Party are Stalinists, shall we say. Whether that's exactly the right term or not, but it's that type of thing, and you get my meaning. And they are going to do the bidding of the Soviet Union, so they actively want to see France lose. I don't see that on the right. They just are highly conflicted and are being stupid. Okay, so September 39. Now this is when the war was supposed to start, but it happened earlier because they didn't have that intermediate step of the national focus to get Czechoslovakia. Well, motorcycle equipment. Now let's do this. I hope some of the mistakes that I've been making, like that Reserve Army one, are good lessons for you. Because yes, I'm making mistakes. I am not presenting this series at all as I'm the super great player, I'm going to kick everybody's ass, and I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm learning and playing and having fun. And you guys get to learn from when I make mistakes. See, what I don't trust, and right now it's settled down, but is for the AI to, oh, I don't know, see a huge bunch of German units over here and decide, oh, well, we're going to take these 2 divisions here and send them up to there, but then send one of these divisions down here and make these temporarily 2 weeks so that these guys rush across. That's why this corps is still under manual control, because at least it maintains some units where I want them, and but then allows the AI to manage some of the others to sort of meet threats. At least that's my thinking behind it. Okay. Let's get this up a little better. We'll be upgrading that soon. Okay, what I want to do here is add another one, and this way, once that one's done, this one will start up, and then we'll leave the other 5 to try to fix bomb damage kind of thing. Let's see if we can put up. Again, we're going to try some of these old fighters. And we're going to put them over here. I'll probably upgrade to some newer ones as production comes in, but okay, well, let's see now what we need versus just I want more fighters. Infantry equipment, good, but we're almost caught up there. Let's do some more support equipment. I think I even reduced that at some point. There we go. Yeah, light bombers. Oh, let's add that for once we get the next factory. I'll move it here. Okay, and that one's done, so let's add in another. Well, thanks for the lend-lease while you did. I appreciate it. Some of the stuff we are catching up on, it's quite true. And mentioning that, let's look here. We want to... Let's deploy all of these. Now they're only partially trained. Let's get more into production here.
Gardez vos rangs.
Now, looking at the border here.
Bougez-vous. Attention.
This is just basically tanks with no infantry support. Now, if we were to, because we've built up some army experience now, if we were to go in here, what's its speed?
Gardez vos
I
rangs.
guess this would have told us, yeah. Speed, max speed, 3 kilometers. That's pretty slow. Do I have enough trucks? It hardly uses any trucks, so yeah. Okay, so, if we were to come into here, looking for its speed. Where are the speed? Okay, well, okay, that doesn't harm the speed, it looks like. So, it's going to take us presumably less trucks, semi-motorized infantry. But these are slow French tanks, so that probably doesn't really matter. And well, we have the motorcycle reconnaissance battalions. Okay. I want to do that. Add some level of support to these units. Now this force here is going to try to go up and hold in here into Mopa. I'm going to move these guys, maybe stupidly, but to here. Here are these guys.
Bougez-vous. Bougez-vous.
Sort of like a fallback line there, but I don't know that they're going to come through, be able to get through there.
Écoutez.
Sedan, Verdun. And I'll just go here with
Bougez-vous. Gardez vos rangs. Aux ordres.
Okay, better light aircraft factory levels are reached. And infantry anti-tank defenses have been improved. Good. I don't think much is left to do here that we can do here. Presumably that's already been researched. Just can't see the green around it. Okay, so we've learned all the lessons we can from World War I. I just wonder how much good that'll do us. I'm not saying it won't do us some good, but Indochina wants to give us. Okay, cool. We appreciate that, our colony. We're still, of course, racing towards extended Maginot Line. Hopefully before they come around Maginot Line. Oh, we've been doing actually some good up here. 28 each time. I guess that convoy probably is 28. Let's go around that maybe. We've been costing them a lot. This is something the AI just doesn't seem to be able to understand. I don't know why it doesn't. One thing I really, really, really wish you could do, whether in 3 or in 4, is like you can in 3, is set up supply routes and or supply convoys and resource convoys. Well, I really wish you could actually give the route, you know, so like for the Germany, okay, well, I'm going to keep trading, but I'm going to, and may cost more, but I'm going to come up along Norway, way up over here, and way out over here, and way out along America, and way down here, and then, you know, to get to, you know, Argentina or something, as opposed to, oh, we're going to either drive down the English Channel or just closest as we can, you know, be able to make extended supply lanes like that and be able to do that. Now, the opposition could, you know, put subs in the way wherever it may be, but still you'd have that sort of option. Uniforms? Okay. 18 convoys? Okay. Well, on that note, we're going to end this episode. I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. I do appreciate that. And hey, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Love to see you around here more. And, of course, please post questions, comments, suggestions, corrections, tips, whatever. Love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.